Hey guys, I want to share with you probably the craziest acid trip report I've ever read online. I normally don't talk about other people's trips, but this one I just found so interesting that I was talking to other people, like random people about it, so I thought may as well talk to you guys about it. So basically this is a story I found on Erowid while researching for the white light video I made. This person described going to the exact same white light. So this is by somebody called White Lights on Erowid, and he reckons he went to this festival and somebody splashed like liquid acid into his face. He doesn't know exactly how much he had, but for some reason he's pretty confident on the fact that he had somewhere around 2,000 micrograms. So after this, everything just faded to black around him and he felt like he was dying. Now, obviously on acid you can't actually die, but it is super common for people to feel like they are dying, and that's normally a sign of an ego death where things are about to get super hectic. So he feels like he's dying, but he did a really good thing in that he let go and he allowed it to happen. By doing that, I think he stopped himself from having a bad trip. Definitely didn't stop him from having a seriously insane trip. So after he lets go, this white light emerges, and the white light, he says, engulfed him. And once he was a part of this white light, he felt like there was no time, there was no him, there was absolutely nothing. Yet at the same time, he felt like he was everything in the entire universe. Now, I do believe that I know exactly what he's talking about, because I obviously did a video very recently talking about going to the highest place on DMT, which was this white light where you do feel like absolutely nothing, yet at the same time absolutely everything. And he actually comments on Erowid saying that he believes on any psychedelic, if you take a high enough dose, you'll go to the exact same place. So now reading this trip report, I would say I agree with this, and that's my best guess of what happens when you do a high enough dose of anything as well. But anyway, this is where it gets crazy. He comes out of this white light after an eternity, and this would be a literal eternity, not just like a sense that he was there forever. He would have experienced it like it was thousands upon thousands of years in this white light. After coming out of that, he still doesn't go back into his body. He comes back as a spirit, and he watches his body get driven in an ambulance to the hospital, at which point he then, as a spirit, jumps back into his body. So from here, he starts to recover and he feels like everything's going back to normal, except he doesn't realize he's still in the trip. So he then lives out in real time the rest of his life until he dies as an old man. And at this point, he still doesn't leave the trip. He then turns into a spirit and he watches the entire universe live out the rest of its existence until it implodes on itself and then, explodes again and recreates the universe. And he didn't mention whether or not this happened like in real time or something, but he said that once the universe recreated itself and he saw the Earth, normal time came back. So he didn't explain it, but he must have been experiencing, the universe explode or implode and recreate itself in this weird time dimension, which is what psychedelics do. They warp time in ways that you just can't explain. It's incredibly strange. But anyway, he sees the Earth get created again. He starts seeing familiar things like animals and people creating cities. And then he sees himself, at which point he, jumps from spirit form back into his body. Now, he must be watching himself kind of like we watch ourselves in a dream, because he says he then experienced the rest of his life in real time, but nothing was changing. He wasn't like making new decisions and changing the path in his life. Everything was exactly the same until eventually he was going back to the festival. And he says that he was trying to stop himself from going to the festival, telling himself no, but he had no control. So he was kind of like even though he was back into his body, he was kind of watching himself play out the rest of his life. He goes back to the festival, and once again, somebody splashes acid in his face, and once more, he goes back into the white light. Has that whole entire experience again. He doesn't really write deeply about it, but I'm sure that alone would have just been absolutely insane. And then this time though, when he comes out of the white light, he's put back into his body and everything's normal. as normal as it can be after that sort of trip, because I know when I came out of the white light, as I shared in one of my last videos, I was, you know, jumping from memory to memory without at first realizing I was in memories, until eventually I jumped back into the present moment. But there was nothing distinguishable between my memories and the present moment, and so immediately it makes you question everything. And considering this guy then says every 15 seconds after that the process would repeat, where everything would fade to black and he'd go, I guess he'd go back to the white light. He doesn't say whether or not he would live out the rest of his life in real time and then, you know, see the universe get destroyed and recreate itself and all that. I'm guessing he just means he'd go back to the white light and then come back to the festival. But either way, I reckon that guy must have been questioning the nature of reality after that sort of trip, because that's what a very high dose of these psychedelics does. It makes you question things in the most profound way. And now, I don't know if this next part is true, but I mean, I don't know if any of this trip report is true, but if this next part is, it's absolutely insane. He reckons that once every decade, so obviously this trip must have happened a while back, once every decade, something will happen that he remembers seeing or experiencing in that future part of the trip. So, you know, that part of his life that he experienced up until the point where he died as an old man, he reckons he remembers things that played out during that part of the trip happening in real life. But it's very rare. It's once every decade. So yeah, obviously, as I said, I have no idea, you know, whether or not this is true, but if we take him on his word, that's absolutely insane. And yeah, once again, makes you question things for sure. Look, in the end of the day, after a few psychedelic trips, you just say anything's possible. So I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. I wouldn't even be surprised. Obviously a super hectic one, and as I said, I normally don't do other people's trips, but this was pretty fun to talk about, to be honest. So if you guys like this sort of video, I can make more of these. And this is probably a good time for me to mention, guys, that this video is sponsored by Natural Shilajit. I had some really interesting results from microdosing acid, and so I really wanted to see if there was other stuff I could take that would kind of induce similar effects. I don't know, for some reason I kind of like the idea of just taking something like Shilajit or ashwagandha or something like that. Just because I like the idea of a herbal supplement that's good for you, altering your life. But yeah, this Natural Shilajit sounds insane. I'm also very much into fitness, so besides improving, you know, your focus, giving you more energy, which microdosing did as well, this also apparently does some, I don't know how, I have to look into the science behind it, but it apparently makes you stronger, which is ridiculous. I'm I don't understand how it does it, but I was literally researching on it, a scientific paper, and it said, the results show that people who did placebo had no benefits in physical strength. People who took Shilajit actually got stronger. So that probably doesn't matter to a lot of you, but to me that was insane. And if you use the coupon code Jack10, you'll get 10% off. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. You know I love the heck out of you, and please don't be turned off by the fact that I am doing a sponsorship. I only reach out to brands that I actually think can genuinely benefit us. I wouldn't be involved with the brand if I didn't think it was something that I or you guys could benefit from. Anyway, guys, if you know any stories that you think I'd find interesting that I'd want to share on here, let me know, even if they're not yours. And yeah, hopefully I'll make another video like this, because this was super fun. Love you all, and I will see you all soon. Peace.